Hello and welcome to Must Read Fiction, a place for people who know that life is better with a novel in hand. I'm Erin Popelka, and I'm delighted to be here today with author Jeanette Escudero. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I love it. I love this.
Oh, I am so delighted. It is truly my pleasure. The child of Cuban immigrants who was born
Yes.
and raised in Miami, Jeanette Escudero worked as an attorney before turning to writing fiction. Writing under the pseudonym Sydney Halston, she is a USA Today best-selling author of multiple romance series. The Apology Project, this gorgeous book I have in my hand, is her book club fiction debut, and we are going to talk about the Apology Project here today. So tell me about this fantastic book.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So yes, this is my first non-romance. It was my leap into the non-romance world. And it was challenging because it's just easier to make everything, wrap it all up in a nice happily ever after bundle. But life isn't happily ever after all the time, or it's just, it just is. It's not unhappy. It just kind of goes and comes and goes. So this story is a lot about Amelia Montgomery, who's been practicing law for as long as she can remember. And her big 40th birthday is about to happen. And a lot is going on with work. It's the first time that she's maybe felt like, wow, I've really been working to this, the pinnacle of being partners. And now she's had a falling out with the other partners, and now she's without a job, about to turn 40, the big 40, and she finds herself alone. And it just kind of um, how her life progresses, unemployed, unfriended, feeling a little bit older, feeling like, what did I do with my life? And through a series of events, she just decides maybe I need to make some apologies to a few people that I've wronged along the way. And it's kind of like her journey into maybe we don't need to apologize to everybody. Maybe we got to be more selective of who we apologize, and learn to be a little bit or learn to be more forgiving to yourself. Maybe I didn't do something wrong. Maybe that person did something wrong. So it's kind of in a nutshell what it's about.
Oh, fantastic. And certainly that question of self-forgiveness is one like I know I have to learn that lesson like over and over
Me
and over
too.
again, just like that, like it's okay, treat yourself as nice as you would treat other people. And I love this question of apology because like it's certainly in the title, the Apology Project. And so there's, certainly apologies in this book. And we've seen a lot of apologies also in the present moment with like the Me Too movement,
Right.
some of which were good apologies, some left something to be desired.
A
And so,
lot.
yeah, so what is the power of an apology and why does Amelia, explore that path?
Well, I think that sometimes we apologize for the wrong reasons, and I think as women, we just feel a need to be apologetic for things that really they're not our fault, and they're just petty little things that really it's just they're not our fault. This is more about, the apology is not really for the other person, it's for yourself. And I think that once she comes to terms with that, it takes a lot to apologize when you've really done something wrong. It's not easy to say, all right, well, okay, I messed up, I'm wrong, I'm in the wrong, and I'm sorry. And you can't control what the other person's going to say. They don't always accept your apology, and she had some of that in the book. And she had some of, well, maybe I don't want to apologize to this person. Maybe I didn't do something wrong. And so it's all about, it's a little bit selfishly motivated, right? Like, all right, I'm apologizing. Yes, that person deserves it, but really I deserve to be free of that burden that I have. So I think that was kind of cathartic for me as well, because you're like, man, do I need to apologize to anybody? And I'm sure I do.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that list is a good one, and I think you're right too. This question about like what the apology is for yourself, right? And certainly,
Right.
many times it also can then help rebuild the relationship or
Right.
help start the healing process if that needs to happen. And sometimes that also leads to a door slamming in your face, right?
And
Yeah.
yeah, and we can't control that. All I can control is what I do. I can control that I feel sincerely sorry, and I can control that I am going to apologize to you. But I can't control what you're going to do in return, but that's okay. And I think understanding that that's okay, and just being ready for whatever may happen is important. And that's something she learned, something I learned through this process. And I think especially as we get older, that is that becomes more important, the quality of the people around us versus the quantity of the people around us. And that's part of her journey.
Gorgeous. Fantastic. Another part of her journey includes Cuba. And
Yes.
I know that, yes, you are the child of Cuban immigrants and have Cuban heritage. And so why did you want to include that aspect of your personal identity in the novel? And how did that kind of tie in with Amelia's self-discovery?
Yeah, I think that um it's hard for me not to include, and even when I was writing romance, there was always like a little bit of Cuban in there, just because I mean, I will tell you, I've never been to Cuba, but it's such a big part of my life, living in Miami, especially this week. That's been just so crazy with everything going on in Cuba. So it's so intrinsically who I am, and just my expressions that I just, even when I try to not incorporate it, it's there. So rather than kind of brush it aside, I was like, let's just go full head on into this. And I think it also has to do with um Cubans, or just Latins in general, just the way we are, what's taboo, what do we do? Like, there's certain, because a lot of it has to do with what we put up with like the Me Too movement, like putting the apology aside, but what she was willing to put up with. I think Hispanics just, not all of us, but some of us, we just kind of think like this is work, and we have to put up with the misogynist pig who is being a jerk because you have a great job, you're making good money. Why are you just compliance, just deal with it, and I wanted to deal with it more, and I'm hoping to deal with it even more in my subsequent books, because I think that's a real thing, like that whole culture of you just got to deal with getting mistreated, and it's just part of life because you have a great job, you know so
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Quick note of context for folks watching: we are recording this July 14th, and so the stuff happening in Cuba right now, recent protests in Cuba. So that is kind of the moment we are in. So
Yeah.
noting what that context is, and actually your point about this question of sexism in the workplace actually really anticipates my next question, which certainly from the beginning, from the opening chapters, we're getting the sense of Amelia as an attorney, the only female partner, other men, all of this kind of sexism in the workplace, just sort of like assumed, all of the things that kind of go with it. Hopefully it's on its way out in our world, but it is still very present for a lot of people every day. And so why did you want to explore that in the novel? And it sounds like you want to maybe keep coming to this. Why does this keep coming back for you?
Well, I'm an attorney. And I still practice, maybe I've slowed down a little bit. I still practice, and I practice employment law. So my job is to deal with the employer side of harassment and discrimination. And we would like to think that it's on its way out, but I will tell you, unfortunately, I've been busier than ever. I think the pandemic really, it brought us back to the feminist movement, took a back turn, because I have clients, I have employers calling me, do I need to hire women? Like, of course you need to hire women. What is wrong with you? Yeah, but every time that they have to homeschool or quarantine, they got to be sent home. And, you know, as women, we are the ones that and there are great men out there, but we're just happen to be the ones that stay home with the kids. So the discrimination and the harassment, I see it so often. And it's just, I love to discuss it because it's just, people think it's out the door, but it's so still there. It might not be like the horrible things you see on Hollywood, but it's still there. And I'll tell you something funny. I've gotten to see now some reviews, and I have to admit the reviews have been great, and I'm so blessed and thankful for them. But there's been a lot of like, the Me Too part of it was too much. That doesn't happen. I will tell you right here and right now, that happened to Amelia. I've seen it happen recently. So it's unfortunate. And I wish I was telling a tale. I wish it was fake, but it does happen, and it's blatant that way. And it's based on things that I see all the time,
Mm.
unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. Like, kind of dose of,
Yeah.
reality. And if there's someone watching who has to deal with workplace harassment or feels that, like, obviously this is not like official attorney advice, but like what would you tell to those people watching who have to face this day in and
Well,
day out?
yeah, I mean, Amelia punched him in the face. I would not recommend that at all. That is not my legal advice. Hopefully, and it all starts from the top, right? So hopefully there's an HR person you can go to, or a manager you can go to, but I mean, the problem is that, I mean, Amelia was at the top of the food chain. She had money, thank God, right? But if you don't, it's not as easy as saying, all right, I'm not dealing with this, I quit. Well, now you don't have a job. So I encourage you, you don't have to put up with it. Speak to the manager, speak to the HR. And if they don't help, go speak to an attorney, because it's illegal. They can't treat you that way at work.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for
You're
sharing
welcome.
that. Yeah. And that kind of leads into my last question. We've talked a little bit about your work as a lawyer, as an attorney, and you are also a writer. So I would love to hear how those two roles complement each other. Like, how does being a writer maybe help being a lawyer, and how does being a lawyer maybe help your writing?
Well, I think it gives me I writing is my escape. I just love to do it, whether it's published or not. I just love to do it. And being an attorney is so hard sometimes, and it's just a lot of arguing and negativity all the time, just because of the nature of the job. So it really complements it in the sense that it gives me an escape, but also the kind of law that I practice. It's so interesting, and every day is something different, that I have a lot of materials for books. Without saying names, it really helps me. And now that I'm getting into this women's fiction and book club fiction, and just this other kind of non-romance world, I want to explore those topics because they're so real and they're things that are happening. But I tend to deflect with humor, and I do like humor. So you will never find one of my books just be, it's not ever going to be like a memoir of sexual harassment or anything. It's always going to have humor behind it, because that's just the way I am. And I find it, it brings a serious topic into more people's hands, because people want to read those kinds of books, I think. So that's how it complements each other. It's what I do all day.
Amazing. And it sounds like humor on both sides too, like making
Oh
that
yeah,
happen all
you
day.
should
Yes.
hear. One day we'll talk about all my crazy investigations. I gotta go home and laugh, because I'm like, whoa.
Indeed, that'll be our next interview. I look forward to it. Well, Jeanette Escudero, thank you so very much.
My
Thank you for
pleasure.
writing the Apology Project and for taking the time to speak with me
Of
about it today. This was so much
course.
fun.
Thank you so much. And if you ever want to have any questions about attorneys and sexual harassment or the book itself, I'm here. I mean, I love feedback on social media, so I look forward to hearing from anybody.
Fantastic. Thanks so much.
Thank you.